I don't believe I have any changes to the agenda. Anyone else?
Is there about changing things on the
No.
agenda?
Yeah.
No, I don't have anything. There was an item, I think that, at least when I downloaded my packet on Sunday, hadn't been included on the consent calendar, the backup material. Was that put in after that?
Yes.
Okay.
So do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
Also move.
Second.
Any comment before we vote? Okay.
Student trustee Kvinsland?
Yes.
Trustee James?
Yes.
Trustee Morton?
Yes.
Trustee Schaefer?
Yes.
Trustee Alm?
Yes.
Trustee Griffin?
Yes. All right, item 5 is a public hearing on the sufficiency of instructional materials. At this time, we will hear comments regarding the availability of textbooks and instructional materials in the district. So this is an item that we'll be voting on, a resolution approving the sufficiency of the materials later in the meeting, and this is a chance for anyone who has any concerns about sufficiency of our instructional materials to speak up. Do we have anyone online who wants to speak on this issue?
I see no one.
Okay. Would anyone like to? We don't need to move, sorry. It's a public hearing. I will now close the public hearing. All right. Item 6 is the consent agenda. This can be passed in one motion without discussion. Do we have a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion on any item on the consent agenda before we vote?
Can you ask a question?
Or that question? Can anyone not by us, sorry, any comment, I guess, from the
Oh,
public
okay.
is what I mean on that. Okay, we can vote.
Student trustee Kvinsland?
Yes.
Trustee James?
Yes.
Trustee Morton?
Yes.
Trustee Schaefer?
Yes.
Trustee Alm?
Yes.
Trustee Griffin?
Yes. All right, on to item 7 and reports, and we'll start with our student trustee, Knut.
All right, so for this board meeting, Tobin and I decided to compose a survey about kind of like student well-being, and these are only the preliminary results. We got 30 respondents to this survey, and we're hoping to get a lot more to report on later, but these are the preliminary results. So, do you have it up there?
I'm working on it.
Just wait for a second to get Aaron. Get it up there. All right, so what issues do you see as the biggest barrier to student learning and achievement at the Mendocino high schools? So you can see there that at the top of the chart is mental health in that light blue color in the top left corner there. And second to that is substance use, and that's the bottom blue there. And if you're curious about where cell phones fall on that, I don't think we actually, oh no. Wait, it was right here.
The green one, distractions.
Yeah,
such as cell
okay, there it
phones.
is. You can see it's a very small sliver of the pie in the
So-
student's eyes.
That big lighter blue at the top left is the mental health one, and the darker blue on the bottom right is substance
Yes.
use.
yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, moving on. Or actually, we do have a side comment on this for the other option. Someone says, there's nothing that can be done about this. We're just a very small school, which means should a virus, cold, or anything of the sort enter the school, then it is likely to spread to a pretty large percentage of the student and faculty, which is definitely something that we notice, and it definitely hinders education in that way, because there has been moments when I've wondered if anyone else is showing up through the door, and we just have a small class some days, so it's something to think about. For the next one, which has the largest negative influences on teen mental health? So you can see that big red portion of the pie, the 34%, is social media. The 27% in yellow is feeling helpless/hopeless. And then you can see the 13.8% is substance use. And then that smaller blue one, the 10.3%, is current state of politics and world affairs. So definitely rolling into election year here in the midst of that. It's definitely transferring on to some of the students, and yeah. And on the next one, we have you ever been cyberbullied since you've been a student at Mendocino High School / community school? And you can see that pie chart sort of speaks for itself with the no in red. And on the next one, this one is, how often are cell phones a distraction in class? And you can see that constantly is in the tiny blue percentage there. On a weekly basis is that yellow percentage. Seldom a distraction is the green percentage, and never a distraction is in purple. So that is definitely an interesting pie chart to look at there. And for the next one, it is, which is a bigger distraction to learning, cell phones or Chromebooks? And this is kind of a follow-up on something that Tobin was talking about last meeting, that Chromebooks possibly could be distracting in class. And this does answer to that, where 62% of respondents said that Chromebooks are more distracting than cell phones in class. Distractional learning. And yeah, so that definitely is an interesting point there. And I would agree that Chromebooks are more distracting in class, and it definitely seems like it's easy for students to get away with things on the Chromebooks like games and things like that. And
Knut, is YouTube available on Chromebooks in class?
it is, but it's highly restrictive to the settings that our school sets it to.
Okay.
So it's,
And there's not a general web browser on the Chromebooks, correct?
there's Chrome,
Oh,
but
no, that counts.
I mean,
It's
yeah.
filtered through all the other, it's filtered, but obviously you could check your news or whatever.
Chrome is filtered, is that,
No,
The
the
whole
feed is,
Chromebook is.
the feed is filtered.
the feed is filtered. At some point, things are filtered so that you can't get to some
Right.
websites.
Right.
Yeah.
MCOE does that.
Got it.
Yeah. All right. But definitely people can still get around that. And there's a lot of things you can do on Chrome. The next statistic is, do you ever wish you spent less time on your phone? So you can see that the larger percentage here is yes, with 55% of respondents saying yes, and the red is the no, with 44%. And for the next one here, it's, do you have any friends who are addicted to their phones? The largest green percentage is none are. The yellow percentage is 1 or 2 are. The red percentage is some of them. The blue percentage is most of them. And so yeah, that is definitely an interesting thing to look at. For the one here, it's, do you wish your friends spent less time on their phones and more time socializing face-to-face while at school? You can see that big yellow percentage is no, with the red percentage at 24% being sometimes, and the yes percentage is in blue with, I can't see the percentage on there, but you can see it's that much of the pie. So yeah, that's definitely an interesting thing to look at. And for the next one here, we have, which do you think is a bigger issue at our school? And this is between student cell phone use and social media and student substance use. I wasn't actually expecting this to be this slanted, but it's definitely interesting to see that 93% of people think that student substance use is a larger problem at our school than cell phones.
That's during school or just
Yeah.
by students? During school hours? So it's not clarified.
At our school.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, for the next one, do you agree with this statement? The cell phone policy at our school is effective for reducing distractions in class. you can see that big yellow percentage is agree with 44%, and then that second largest one is strongly agree with 31%. The red percentage, 20.7%, is disagree, and that small blue percentage is strongly disagree. So you can definitely see that there is some disagreement here, but the majority of people think that the cell phone policy is effective in its effectiveness. Next one here. Do you agree with the statement? Wait, I think, am I on the wrong one? Sorry. Okay. This is a different question. Do you agree with the statement? The cell phone policy at our school is effective for encouraging face-to-face interactions. You can see that big yellow percentage, 48%, says agree. The red percentage is disagree, so we're definitely having some more disagreement on this question, with the 20.7% in green, which is strongly agree. So yeah, that is definitely an interesting perspective. There's definitely some disconnect, as you can see, with that 31%. But overall, people think that it's effective. And then I also have some little comments by students about this. This first one is, social media use and phone use at our school are separate issues. I will not trust this school, and I will leave this school if you try to take or affect my personal property. This is being brought up by fear. Parents are in fear. Education and discussions about social media use in the way we combat social media addiction. Phone use in class is not an expression of addiction, but need to communicate about work, clubs, etc. This other student says, I think both are a huge negative influence, and I couldn't decide between both, but the influence that social media has on kids is crazy, and I'm just starting to realize how horrible it is. And then I also have another statement by a student that I would like to read. Cell phone policy at school and cell phone use at home are different things. If you are scared about your students' use of social media at home, talk to them about it. Since current policy, I have not seen more than, 1 or 2 occasions of someone using their phones in class. If they are texting an employee, parent, or club member. If students have their phones taken from them, they will not be able to self-regulate in the workplace, as they will not have had experience. Certain classes use phones for instruction, like using slow-motion video in physics. If a teacher is unable to stop someone using their phones, we already have strong policy. If the teacher fails to execute this, this is a problem with their disciplinary ability and should be taken up with them. So that's what that student says. And that about covers my report. If you guys have any questions, then I'd be
So
glad
I have a question. I
to
mean,
address them.
this sample size
Yeah.
is about, what, a quarter or a fifth of the student population?
I think, yeah, somewhere around a fifth. Yeah.
Okay, so how representative do you think this percentage is? I mean, it's not, in other words, I don't think you can extrapolate this necessarily to the entire student body.
Yeah, we didn't get everyone to respond. No.
I mean,
But
do you have any reason to say yes or no about how representative the people who respond, because you know who responded.
Yeah.
Are they representative of the group?
I mean,
or do they reflect more the attitude of a certain subgroup within the high school culture?
We sent it out on, when did we send it out, Tobin?
Wednesday morning.
Wednesday morning. So there has been some time for people to like check their emails and fill this out. And I do believe that it probably would be helpful to do a whole school survey on if people are checking their emails or not, because that would be an important data point to answer your question.
But that couldn't be an email survey.
Which couldn't be sent out in an email survey. I would have to go around advisory, which will be helpful. And that will sort of answer your question, and maybe I should do that and respond to that question next meeting because, yeah, definitely, I don't know how many people are checking their emails. So,
Well, I'm just thinking,
Yeah.
you know, one of the things that was certainly fascinating is the percentage of students who felt that substance abuse was interfering with students' ability to learn
mhm.
in the classroom. And I just wondered whether that meant that the population that responded were the abstainers and therefore had a more jaundiced view about that, or whether they were reflective of, I mean, if you read that, if you take those numbers and try to make sense with it, it's kind of crazy making, because it's saying that more than half the students feel that substance abuse is impacting learning on the campus.
Mhm.
And so one assumes that that means that a similar proportion is using, or is abusing substances. They're not just talking about other people.
I don't think you can make
No,
that
no,
leap.
I think it's where it comes in, you know, I mean, is it, well, I don't know, I'm saying that it's difficult to understand exactly what these statistics mean, and the charts are great, and but I just don't know how much weight to put on them.
Michael, that's exactly what it means.
What?
I mean, we can follow up with Healthy Kids survey data that this school is way higher than most schools in terms of substance use. The
Substance-
numbers are in the 50s to 80%
Uh-huh.
alcohol and other drug use. Current alcohol and other drug use. A little lower for at-school use, but I think the 11th grade, the last time we did Healthy Kids, was 85% alcohol or another drug current use.
That's what I was asking Knut. That's not necessarily during the school day, you're saying?
We have both,
Okay.
but the question was, does it affect learning?
Right.
Right, but I was trying to, when Knut had the pie, the one slide up there, that's what I was trying to understand. Not, obviously they're both significant, but whether it's going on during the school day or not, I think is a significant.
Well, cell
Bit of
phones,
information.
Cell phone, social media can go on at
Right.
night, so can
Of
partying.
course, but us as the board and you as administrators are only in control of the students while they're here, not at home. So yes, we would like to encourage healthy habits for an entire day, but we can't affect rules upon what goes on at home, whereas we can.
I think Kim and I would argue that we deal with a lot of things
Of course.
that happen outside.
No, of course, I'm not disagreeing with that, but we are not the parents' parents. So, that we have no, I mean, sure, we can try and educate the parents and encourage things, right? But you can only come up with rules for during the school day, not for what goes on at home. Right.
I think this is really interesting, Knut. I wonder if it's possible maybe to sort of keep sending it to people until they respond.
Yeah.
I think that's a feature, right, where you can send it again to people who haven't responded yet, and because it would be great to get more responses as well.
Yeah, definitely.
But the data is very interesting. Yeah.
Ray, I don't know if you can pull it back up, the first slide or two, something caught me where it seemed like you were asking about cell phone use, and then people said, well, social media is the biggest issue, biggest problem. But then the next slide said, sorry, I'm blanking. It just seemed like, well, where are they getting their social media? From either Chromebooks or cell phones? Because it said something like, it was suggesting the cell phones weren't a problem, but then it was saying the social media was a huge problem.
Well, could that be at night?
the mental
Rather
health.
than not at school?
So that's what I'm wondering. It seems like, well, social media is either phones or Chromebooks or right, some sort of connected device, and that was it was a large percentage.
That was a breakdown of mental health.
Right. Okay. So right there, it's there. So social media. Okay. But then the previous slide. So that's huge. But then here, and then substance. But somewhere right, there's this one where phone use was super low. So it's just distractions such as cell phones. So I'm trying to understand where the 34 is coming from if it's not coming from phones or I guess maybe it's Chromebooks. I mean, maybe our Chromebook policy needs to be reconsidered, not our phone policy, because I don't think they're getting it from talking to each other. Because the whole social media, by definition, right, is one of those. I don't think they're getting it reading the print newspaper. Anyhow, that was the only thing that caught my attention. And I would love to see the teachers respond to these same questions. I felt, and I mentioned this last month, asking students to weigh in on whether they want their phones taken away, I think is problematic, because I think you're gonna have it's gonna be very few that are gonna say, oh yeah, take it away. I think there's a huge flaw in that being very much of our guidance on the issue, personally. I don't mind the input, but it doesn't feel appropriate that that's the guidance. I would love to hear the teachers' opinions on the matter.
Well, so I'm creating a survey. We had a community member ask for this item to be back on the agenda, and I suggested that I create a survey and send it out to parents and staff to get stakeholder feedback in that way and bring it back at a future agenda or future month. So that survey should be out soon.
Great. Yeah, and maybe if you are able to get more responses, then we could have an even fuller
Yeah,
version
definitely.
of the survey results to go along with that.
This will come back when I have all the results.
That's great. Thank you, Knut. Really appreciate it. We do, I think, have a hand up online. Jim?
Yes, thank you. Three things. 25% is an extremely large sample size. You can get a lot of significance out of that, and it would be relatively simple to have some fairly standard statistical tests run against the raw data. More than happy to help if you want. Secondly, in terms of social media, if the student body has identified social media as an issue, then that can be blocked at the internet level by the high school or grade school, wherever it makes sense. So block Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, that kind of stuff, but allow the general internet access so that students can still use their phones as tools. Finally, about drug use, yes, it's a very big problem on campus. My daughters would not go to the community school because of marijuana use down there. And there are a number of high-profile cases of alcoholism and harder drug use during the school year within a small minority. So I can see why the students identify drug use as an issue on campus. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. All right. Thank you, Knut. Really
you.
appreciate the very interesting survey. All right. Kim, I believe you're up.
Thanks, Canoe. I found it interesting, too, that there was maybe a disconnect between mental health being a huge issue and them saying that social media influenced their mental health in a negative way, but not making that connection. And yes, the vehicle is the cell phone most likely for that. So a lot of education and learning to do about it, I think. So here we are in September. My first board report since school has started. You can go ahead and go into the next one, Erin. We've had a great start to the school year this year. It's been really nice to see students back on campus, excited to be there, excited to see their friends, and it feels like we kind of just rolled into a quarter of the way into the year. I don't know, it's a weird, and maybe this is like post pandemic, the getting back to the way it should feel. But it's just been nice to see all the kiddos and staff interact and see things happening as typical. We are excited this year to start some new programs at the KAKX school. Last year we identified some students to be student ambassadors because we wanted to beef up our new student kind of program, how to get new students integrated. And so they went through some sessions and had a lot of input on what do new students need to know. And then we invited 6th, 7th, and 8th grade new students the day before school started to come and meet with the student ambassadors, and they toured them around the school and kind of gave them all the insight to the KAKX school, which was very successful. We have several new students at the KAKX this year. A lot of them are concentrated in the middle school, and it's made a big impact, on our small numbers, but it's made a big impact on the site. So that was really successful. We've also started a new community service program school-wide that we're wanting to focus on teaching kids about community service. Last year, I worked with staff to come up with instructional areas of focus and kind of a community service hour requirement for all the different grade levels, and so we're implementing that this year. For the 7th and 8th graders, it looks like a period a week of community service where they're working towards some sort of project. So I'm very excited to see where that grows and how it grows within our schools. So we're going to do kind of individual grade level stuff and school-wide events around community service. This week, our 7th and 8th graders actually went to the Mendocino headlands and worked with state parks on helping to eradicate the ice plants. So that was exciting and fun for them. So there's some examples up there. Also, I wanted to weigh in on transitional kindergarten at the K. It's a separate class this year, and already it has been, it just really shows that it's developmentally more appropriate for the students. You can see the kindergarten class taking off quicker, and also less tears. We had 0 tears in our TK class this year, and it was just very smooth and clearly a developmentally more appropriate setting for them. So that's been excited to see. We have 7 students in there currently at the K. So I think so far it's been a great development for them. Just give you some numbers on our neighborhood schools. Comshy were at 8 and Albion at 14. We had 0 third graders at Comshy School this year, and we had 3 second graders, and I contacted families when we found out that the Comshy School teacher was not going to be there and a sub was going to be coming in to see if they wanted to come into the K-8 school to make the grade span of teaching a little bit narrower for a sub who was going to be in there for a long time. And they did. So it's a TK through first program out there this year currently. And I wanted to follow up a little bit on what Knut was saying in our discussion around the anxious generation. One of the things that I put together since for this year, one of the things that I wanted to do, I mentioned it I think at the last board meeting but didn't have it ready, was to put together a brochure of information. And so I have that for you that has been going out to families. One of the things I wanted to talk about is that the book focuses on 4 reforms that could help society and our youth and mental health crisis, and we focused on one of them at the last board meeting, which was the phone-free schools. But I think that number 1, 2, and 4 are just as, if not more important, and that is no smartphones before high school and no social media before 16. And so it's interesting connecting that with some of the numbers that students are identifying social media as being a place of concern. And so one of the things that is also super important that I'm worried about getting kind of dulled down in all this is that, unstructured play for kiddos as they're growing is how they learn, and that is just as important. I think, Mark, you've said that recess is the most important part of the school day, and, it is. It's where students and humans learn how to navigate life and build those skills. So. And I just want to point out that I think that us moving to a cultural shift on delaying the getting of smartphones, if we went with number 1, it would make number 3 a moot point at the K-8. But I think that it's really important for us to be kind of advocates for families to help educate and make sure that this is a known and regular thing, and hopefully we'll be making a cultural shift to that. One of the things that I did this year, I think I mentioned it at the last meeting that I've been thinking about it, but at back to school night, I met with the TK and kindergarten families and asked them to take a pledge. It's in your brochure there, basically to wait until high school for giving a student a smartphone. And so they signed a pledge, and it's something that I'm going to be touching base every year with families about to gather new students and also to remind them. One of the things we talk about a lot is that it's really helpful to have a group of people who are on the same page. And so when your child is coming to you and pressuring you and saying, I'm the only one at school that doesn't have a cell phone, you have a known group, hopefully, that is going to stick to it and say, no, actually, we've been doing this thing with school. We've pledged not to do that and to wait till high school. So I'm hoping that over the years that it will build and also create a cultural shift or help create a cultural shift to that. So that's my report tonight. Thanks.
That's great. Thank you, Kim. I appreciate it. All right, Jason.
All right, I don't have too much tonight. I do want to start off by acknowledging 2 employees who we accepted their retirements at the end of the year tonight on the consent agenda, and that's Diane Price and Trish Evans. Diane's been here for 35 years running our cafeteria program, and Trish for 27 years. And They are staples at our schools, and they don't just run the cafeteria program. Diane also is very instrumental in the community gardens that we have at our school sites, and you'll often see her after hours and on the weekends in the garden, watering and taking care of the garden. So she runs the annual plant sale, and they are going to be missed big time, but also I think this is an opportunity to kind of think about what we do in the cafeteria, and I plan on studying some options and see if we can kind of maybe change what we do to try and get more participation in the cafeteria program in the future. So I'm hoping to visit some other schools that are doing some innovative things.
They're going to be here through June.
Through June, yeah. So we're going to start that replacement, start the advertisement process as soon as we can, but I want to get some information first about what we're looking for.
What does more participation in the cafeteria mean?
More
Like-
students eating cafeteria lunch
Okay.
and breakfast. We did a water project site visit at the water tank site behind the maintenance yard, and as a part of about 6 or 7 agencies showed up to be a part of that, and a part of that was noticing what we do behind the maintenance area, and we were identified for some violations impacting watersheds and wetlands and Bishop Pine Forest. So we're going to have to clean up the entire maintenance yard behind the maintenance barn, and then a little bit to the north of the maintenance barn. So it's going to be a lot of work, a lot of effort. We're going to have to actually reroute a stream bed that was rerouted before. We're going to have to go back to what they think was the original stream location, swale location. So it's gonna be a big effort, but it's kind of a blessing in disguise because we have a lot of junk that needs to go. So one of my favorite things to do is get rid of junk, get dumpsters. So looking forward to that. And then we hired a bus driver, which is big news for us. We started the year with 3, and at one point, just this past week, 2 of our 3 bus drivers were sick, so we had to cancel routes, which was very inconvenient for parents. But hopefully we can get this new bus driver trained quickly, and we can get back up and running with 4. That's it.
Great. Thanks, Jason. All right, moving on to our bargaining units, MTA. Josh.
Hello again. I have my laptop here. I'll try to stay on course. So hopefully it doesn't feel like I'm just reading stuff. So I just want to report kind of what Kim had said, that the beginning of the year has been fun, and it's going from like good fun to busy fun, and we're still having a great time. I'm just amazed at what is happening at our school. So far on our end, we've had 2 e-board meetings with the union. Since the beginning of the school year, we have not had our general meeting until Monday, so we don't have a lot of feedback from the union aspect, but I've reached out. Tobin has graciously offered to meet with me on a monthly basis. I work really closely with Kim, who we haven't set up a time, but she's always there for me when I have that, so I appreciate that. There's no concerns there. Jason, we've set up a time to do monthly check-ins, which will be helpful. We talked about last year that they were kind of popping up as needed, and then we're just going to try to meet consistently to keep up good communication on our end. And then Emily's reached out to check in a busy schedule because of soccer and all that good stuff. And so I just want to throw out and extend, if you're able to come in and visit my room at the K8, that would be great. Monday, Thursday, and Friday mornings from 8:30 to 9:30 are pretty calm, and you can kind of get a grip and maybe check in a little bit what would be helpful on my end to be sharing at the board meetings. Because I have some ideas, and I just want to make sure we're kind of making sure we're taking advantage of the time together. And also, you're always welcome to come on in and check it out, because you'll meet some interesting characters. It's busy, and I won't have as much time to talk after 9:30 on those days, but it's certainly an exciting place. We laugh a lot. Kim was in the other day, and it was just like a show, a free show. Yeah. But it was great, and a lot of amazing things going on. I also have a radio show on weekly from 5 to 6 p.m. on Fridays, most Fridays. Jason has come in before. I would love for anybody to come in and talk about what it's like to be on the board. I'm trying to get teachers in to just kind of start the conversation, share music. It's really a fun thing on my end. All right. And then, yeah, and so I just want to share really quickly too, back to school night, you know, coming as a parent, as a teacher and a coworker, I was just blown away. There was so much excitement here, and my sense of gratitude of like what is happening at our schools. There were moments where like I just wanted to hug every teacher because, and in fact I hugged Marsh and Profe because I just was like, thank you so much. This is the school I would have wanted to be in, the classrooms I wanted to be in, the teachers that I wanted to be in, and that's amazing. And so also, I had a moment too where I'm just of like how proud I am to be a part of our staff meeting at the K-8 and a part of just even this and being able to share up here. This is a really important thing, and I respect the work that everybody is doing, from our high caliber teachers to our admin and then also the board. It is a true privilege, and I just want to, this year my hope is to kind of continue that, like we're on the same path of trying to achieve something that we're restrained in public education. I've mentioned several times this is my 20th year, and there's so many things in public education that are so hard working with this restrictions and systemic problems, and we're doing amazing things up here. So I'm excited as taking on this role as the union president for the interim. All right, so with that said, I wanted to make sure and start something new, to take a few moments to recognize some of our staff members. I don't want to take up too much time, but yeah, thank you for bringing that up. We're going to start trying to nominate teachers and things that we, see, and then I'm going to kind of bring it to you so you have a face to the teachers, because I think you know the positions, and I just ask some simple questions to just share background. So first one I have is Molly Root, and this is her 11th year teaching in Mendocino, currently 6th grade teacher for the math, science, and lead guitar teacher for the elective. Over the years at MUSD, she's taught 2nd grade, 4th and 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade at the K-8, and also she is on the leadership committee, as well as the union treasurer, membership chair, and website manager. And she does a lot for the union to keep that ticking, the budget, the treasurer in particular. So I wanted to add in, this is her 13-year teaching overall, graduated from the University of Nevada, Reno with a BS in elementary education, master's degree in mathematics education from Western Governors University. I had a student pick out Molly as her teacher appreciation week last year, a student that I couldn't get to write a whole lot, and wrote a full-on paragraph of why she loves math and Molly and how great she is, and I meant to copy and paste it in here, but it was really, really moving. I found it the other day. Her favorite part of the day, always math class, which I think is amazing. I think it's amazing that she thinks math class is her favorite part of the day. She also loves lead guitar, so lead guitar is making a move in her life. One thing she wishes that people knew about teaching or public education: every single day is different. Every good plan can flop or fly. We are in this together, and we need your support. In her free time, she enjoys block printing, painting, outdoor time. And then unique things, she comes from a small mining town of Rough and Ready, California, and grew up gold mining, selling blueberries, and riding horses, which sounds a lot similar to what's going on up here. And she found her better half in Brazil, where she learned Portuguese and discovered who she truly is. So that's Molly. So a moment to recognize her and her service. And then next we have Liz Newkirk. She started at the high school as the high school register 15 years ago, continued that position while completing her master's degree in counseling and psychology at USF, and she's been a school counselor at Mendocino High School going on 11 years, and she wrote in parentheses, I think, so she's losing track. As the school counselor, she serves students, parents, and staff with both academic advising and in the social emotional capacity. So there's a long list here of all the things and the different hats that she covers, and I just want to recognize that. So she helped bring the AVID program to the district 10 years ago, and many of those principles and practices are still being used in classrooms today, even though the program is not being used. Closely involved with developing our dual enrollment program, initially with the College of the Redwoods, and more recently Mendocino College. Mendocino High School was recognized as a California exemplary dual enrollment school, which I did not realize. This was last year, and they presented at the statewide conference in San Diego. She's participated in both the site administration leadership team as well as our academic learning leadership teams over the years. She's been a part of the student success team coordinator for many years and recently returned to the 504 coordinator position as well. She facilitates those meetings, academic strategies, as well as plans to support student success. Her quote is, one of my beloved activities is the California Scholarship Federation Advisor, which I've held for 8 years now. Our motto is scholarship for service, and our members not only offer free peer tutoring, but work with K-8 students and other fundraising activities to offer financial scholarships to our graduating seniors. And I just want to add, my own child has been through that program, got to come up and help in my classroom as well as the others, and it's such a neat thing to see those high schoolers working with our kids. And then also, the scholarship process was so moving last year to see what these kids were being sent off with, which I'm sure many of you are aware of, or most of you are aware of. Liz works closely with our seniors and families in preparation for high school transitions, entering the world of work, trade, and technical programs, or moving towards 2 or 4 year college applications. She was also part of the adoption team for the Get Focused, Stay Focused, which is the 4-year college and career program, which supports 9th through 8th graders. And then on top of that, she coordinates the PSAT school day exam, the SAT school day exam, and the advanced placement testing. All right, and I have a little bit more because I think this is so important. She also participates in the Alternative Education Week TripAdvisor. She's been doing that for 15 years, spearheading events such as the College Tours, Coastal Adventures, and Yosemite, which is kind of our foundation for our freshmen, and the Back to the Land. And then also, she's part of the team for the Mendocino High School onboarding for the California College Guidance Initiative, which I did not know, and that's known as the CCGI. This initiative works to ensure that all 6th through 12th graders students in California have access to systematic baseline of guidance and support as they plan, prepare, and move for post-secondary education and training. I think it's amazing. So that's just a few of the dozens of hats she wears, along with community involvement student coordinator, placing monitoring the high school students in volunteer positions around the community, and work experience coordinator, student-directed studies coordinator, and it supports our students taking online college courses, which both my daughters have benefited from. My daughter just started in Pittsburgh College, out in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, but 19 of those units automatically dropped her an advantage to take more of the classes that she was interested in. And it was kind of like this unexpected thing that they transferred over, and it was just amazing to see that transfer over. And historically acted as the academic advisor for both the independent study programs and the continuation at the Sunrise High School programs. All right. And then the next one, interesting, unique things. Liz shared that she wanted to be a teacher in an education since 6th grade and never wavered, even though she had to take public speaking 3 times in the college to pass it. So she dropped out twice due to anxiety and fear, which I think is amazing because she's so eloquent and just an amazing person. But those struggles that help us identify with the kids when you see that in them and know what their potential is. So, and then I have just one more, and then this one is for Cecilia Jimenez. And I'm biased here because I'm married to her, and that is our daughter, one of our 2 daughters on there. She started school as the school social worker 8 years ago. I'll never forget when she called to apply for it and spoke with the superintendent and was blown away at just how calm and kind and how much time he took to explain the position. And we come from Southern California where it's, everything is just on fast forward all the time. And it was such a refreshing experience from that point on to the application process, to the people she met with, all the way to the people. I remember the first staff meeting, just how charged she was from that. So I'm just adding my own commentary in here. She also provides support as the school counselor at the K-8, Albion, and Comtree schools. That's both individual and group. She offers social work district-wide and crisis support as needed district-wide. She serves as the district homeless and foster youth liaison and provides Spanish translation at any and all meetings district-wide as needed. She's been working in schools since she was 14, starting in Southern California, worked with kids as young as preschool, and also works with nonprofits before moving to MUSD. She has a master's in social work. She has the Pupil Service credential and is a licensed clinical social worker. Her favorite part of the day is meeting with the kids, and she shared public education has amazing opportunities as we get direct access to students who may or may not always get outside support, and we are usually the first line of access. So in her free time, she likes to watch whales. All right, that was a lot. So usually we'll probably do them to 2 for each meeting, but these are peer nominated, and then I take the results and I just kind of cut and paste and share the stuff on there after we interview them. Does anybody have any questions before I make my exit? Cool. All right, thank you all.
That was great, Josh. Thank you so much. All right, do we have anyone from CMS on the line?
See no one.
Okay, let's go on to board trustee reports. Lisa, do you have any report for us today?
Nothing from me this month, thank you.
Okay, Mark?
Nothing for me.
Michael?
I've attended a couple Zoom seminars, webinars about chronic absenteeism, and trying to see if there are many things that, if there are things that we're not doing, and I think we're trying to do all of them. It's just a matter of following through. What works is contact with families and making the connection about why it's important for your kid to be in school, not most of the time, but almost all of the time. And it's a struggle. That one of the things that COVID did was it gave the impression that attending school in person wasn't important. And we're still struggling to overcome that sense. I mean, that's why our chronic absenteeism is roughly double what it was beforehand. But it's interesting to hear these things with huge districts and all over the state, and you know, our problems always seem a little bit less when you listen to what other people are going through.
I don't have anything this month.
I don't have anything this month either. So we'll move on. Item 9.1, Phase 1 and Phase 2. Don.
Nice to see everybody again. I thought it was going to be a pretty uneventful meeting, and then I woke up to emails and texts. But at any rate, all in all, we're doing pretty good out there. Phase 2, the contractors completed with the vast majority of the work. They've turned over the tech center for use, and they're about or in transition of turning over the gym for use right now too. What remains for the gym is for the architect and engineers to come and do a punch list, walk through the building and make their checklist of what needs to be attended to. That's not quite there yet. And that's our opportunity, while Tobin and others are walking, they have an opportunity to look at it and make their own comments too of what we need the engineers or the architect to look at. So that's going to happen on the 21st, I believe, or 23rd for the gym. It already happened at the tech center, and they're coming at night to address the punch list items after school, so they're not disrupting school. Other thing that remains is the mechanical system in the gym and the tech center is functioning and working. The controls guy was there today working on the controls that tell it when to work and all that today. They have to come back next week and get on a large lift and balance the air system. So basically they go around and make sure the airflow in each outlet is what's prescribed, and that has to happen next week. The milestones that we made, or maybe not quite made, is the fire alarm system was tested and approved by the IOR, and that what allowed us to have you in the tech center as well as the gym. The health department went through and blessed the kitchen. And the ANSEL system, well, let me explain what an ANSEL system is for those that don't know. There's a fire alarm there's a bunch of devices that are through each building that are smoke detectors and heat detectors. And those is an automatic fire alarm system. It used to be that schools had manual fire alarm systems where you'd pull the station. Then the ANSEL system is specific to kitchens, where you have a cook, a gas, or even in this electric. When you have greasy type of food, you're supposed to have a system that if a fire happens at the stovetop, they could push a button and a big mess of chemicals land on it and put out the fire. And it also, when that happens, when you push that button, it also tells the fire alarm, hey, somebody set off the ANSEL system. So that's all functioning now as well. What has to happen is that we need an independent person come and say, yes, it's functioning. And that hasn't happened yet. It actually was scheduled for today, but it got pushed to Saturday. So Saturday, somebody will come out and say, yes, it's functioning. But in reality, right now, it's functioning.
What triggers the sprinkler system?
The sprinklers are heat activated. If there's a little bulb in there, and if it gets too hot, it melts that bulb and the water comes out. It's not like the movies where all of them go off. Just the one that got set off will go off.
So a false alarm on the alarm system won't trigger the sprinkler system?
No, the false alarm won't trigger the sprinkler system. So I was going to say it was kind of be a brief or uneventful meeting until this morning when I guess the Mendocino the Albion Fire Department had to come because it was a false alarm, and he was kind of grouchy about it. Look, at least that's the sense I got from the email. And I'll tell you, fire alarms are the bane of my existence. They write, all these fire guys write all these laws that say you need to have an automatic fire sprinkler. So you have hundreds, if not thousands, of devices that are there to tell you, hey, there might be a fire. Well, that's 100 or 1,000 opportunities for failure as well. So somebody in preparing for the open house or whatever you had going, they cleaned the bathrooms, and they got a little close to the fire alarm and sprayed some chemicals on it, Windex or whatever, and that set the fire alarm off. And they didn't know how to take it out of trouble. So
How come it didn't go off until 2:45?
I think, and I didn't talk this out, so it probably went in trouble saying, hey, there might be an issue. There might be an issue. And they didn't know how to say, oh, it's all right, leave me alone. And then, it stays in trouble for long enough, and then it says, oh, I'm gonna set things off. So it probably went in trouble when early in the evening, and then at the middle of the night, the most opportune time, it said, okay, nobody's acknowledging this trouble, I'm gonna set you off. And that's what happened.
Okay.
So, it could be anything. What I find happen often in schools, and right now we're just shaking it out, so people are getting used to, oh, let's not spray so close over there, we'll spray over here and clean the windows. What happens over time is, like the art room, I'll tell you, they have clay wheels and clay dust that will set off a fire alarm at some point. On stages, they usually do heat detectors rather than smoke detectors, because if you have dry ice and it's a smoke detector, it's going to go off. So there's a lot of opportunities from here on out. You're going to have false alarms. It's just, they ask for it and they're going to get it. They want 100 devices, there's 100 opportunities for failure. So, at any rate. So at least this event, we got identified what the issue was, and we got it resolved. So hopefully, the next time it goes off, it's your local fire guy. He might not be so grouchy. But that's what fire alarms are for, to wake people up. So, at any rate, got off on a tangent, sorry. Anyway, schedule-wise, they're essentially done. Like I said, we've got to do punch lists. They're shaking out a few things, like having to do the testing and balance. Financially, I'll say there's really no movement. It's the same where we are. There's not been any more change events or cost impacts. It's just we're just working on closing it out. So I say that to you, Emily, directly. Anyway,
Great.
so up until the fire alarm went off at 4 in the morning, whatever time it did, I had a pretty uneventful report. So with that, I think I'll open it up to questions.
So it's September, and the generator is supposed to be installed.
That's true, and I've been meaning to ask him if I've asked him in the past, are we on track for the generator to arrive and finish that up? I didn't ask him recently, but I don't expect that to be an issue. But I need to ask.
Would you send Jason an email about that next week, so that we can?
Yeah, I will ask Eddie. I got a little distracted with the other issues. Well, the other issue that came up that I forgot to mention is, you see all those modulars that are broken apart, ready to roll away? We're not paying rent on them for now, finally. So that's the good news. The bad news is they finally got the permit to move them, and then somebody measured that bridge over there, and they're about 4 inches too wide to make it past that bridge. So
They get through the first time.
they weren't working on the bridge.
Well, they had started to work.
Yeah. So I know in a different project, they had to jack them up and go over to K-Rail over in Point Arena. I don't know if they're willing, obviously they're not willing to do that. So I still need to work out the company on when we could get those out of there. The big issue for the last 3 weeks is we couldn't get a permit from CHP to move them.
Can't they go south and on 128?
That's the kind of discussion. Yeah, that's the kind of discussions I have to have with them. Usually they come from 20, even if they're going to Point Arena. When I've had them move to Point Arena, they usually come from up here. So yeah, so the big issue now is shake out all the punch list stuff and get rid of those mods so you get your parking lot back. Because there's accessible parking that needs to be built or completed down there, and it was right where the bathrooms were. And they're still in the way because they can't get rid of them. But like I said, we're not paying rent for them now. They're just being housed there until we get clearance or some way to get them out of here. So
Get some barges.
Huh?
Get some barges.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, they used to ship big things from here.
Yeah, no, I was reading some history thing. I think it was this Well, maybe it was, I think it was Mendocino, where the only way to get here was by barge before?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah, we'll have to go to old school and go barge. So, all right, with
All
that,
Thank you, Don. Appreciate it.
All right,
Any
well, thank
questions
you.
for Don?
Well, I mean, I was going to hope to say this was your last visit, but apparently not. We'll see you
Yeah.
again in October.
yeah. I'm still going to Fort Bragg for a while, so it's no bother to stop by. But yeah, and it's nice to see some of the Phase 3 stuff kind of eking away behind the scenes. I see some of the expenses, so it's nice to see movement on more under the radar stuff that are probably not as expensive. It's good to see that moving forward too. So, all right, I'll see you next time then. Thank you.
All right. It is 6:01, so this is our timed public comment period. This is a time for anyone in the community or a parent who may have a comment on anything that is not on tonight's agenda. Do we have anyone who would like to comment on anything that's not on our agenda this evening? Doesn't look like we have any hands up on the Zoom, and there's no one here in the room, so we will continue on. Item 9.2 is Phase 3. Which is, as Don mentioned, smaller, lower cost items that we're going to be working on with the remaining funds available to us, and we have already begun some of that. Wind Spirit and I and Jason toured the comm school restrooms yesterday, and also just walked through the tech center and the gym. The restrooms are done other than mirrors and maybe
Some adjustments.
and a couple little adjustments after having used them for a week to just make sure everything works right and is up to snuff. So that's great. That's been a project we've done in-house with Ruben, who was hired to do bond projects. He's going to get started on the locker rooms once Lathrop is finally out of the gym. So that's on his list. We've got some work at the PAC that's on the list that Ruben can then turn to.
And after you left, we went and toured the comm school entrances, the metal. He's gonna work on getting rid of the rust and repainting the metal. He's got a lot of work. We'll keep him busy.
Yeah. We're making some progress on irrigation for the fields, and then looking at doing a sort of a renovation of the field, not a full replacement or anything, but just sort of a renovation to make the fields better at the end of this soccer season. And some other improvements around the field, as far as probably a scoreboard funded by Club Cardinal and some other minor things to make the fields better, a water fountain.
So that involved not using the field for a certain period of time to let it heal?
Right.
So
Yeah.
we should probably, notify those people who do tend to use it during those times that that's coming up.
Yeah, I don't think it's used regularly by anyone in the winter months.
Mhm.
So this wouldn't be until November. Yeah. And if I were doing it, I'd probably actually rope it off as well to keep people off of it while it regrows in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wind Spirit, anything you want to
We
add?
talked about the lighting of the PAC a bit. Jason is going to hopefully try and get some competing bids. We did get some feedback from Jason spoke with Mark Quattrochi, who put him in touch with another consultant who seemed to think that it was within reason, the pricing we'd been given. Emma and I were of the opinion to encourage Jason to see if he could possibly get some other prices, but if not, go ahead with Fort Bragg Electric for that work, as stiff of a price tag as it is. But I agree that having that space without functioning lighting is not a scenario we want to be in.
Did you contact the electricians who worked on this last phase of the high school?
Not yet, no. But I'm not sure if they would be interested, but.
But they might, if they're working in Fort Bragg, I don't know if they are or not.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I can, yeah. I wish Don was still here, I'd ask him, but yeah. I
Yeah.
would. That's O'Rourke, I believe, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Do we have any notes on the tennis court?
You know, MCRPD, I thought was gonna get in touch with me, and they have not. So, no, we've no progress on that.
Okay. Is that something we should follow up with them about?
We could. It was gonna be they were gonna fund it,
Sure.
so, yeah.
And do we have a timeline on the solar RFP?
They're working on it. We had a call with them earlier this week, and so they'll be putting the RFP together, and it should go out in October.
And hopefully they'll be getting us some more precise dimensions so we can work on some story poles. And when the three of us walked it, I think that because both arrays are proposed to project off of a hill,
Mm-hmm.
I think that realistically we'll get story poles for the low corners and maybe an angle.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to be quite challenging to
Mm-hmm.
create the high corners because I think they'll be
Mm-hmm.
25 to 30 feet off the ground, somewhere in that realm, maybe more. But I think that would allow us some pretty good visual.
And it's difficult with the portables the way they are now, because they're all pulled out into the middle of the parking lot. It doesn't really help.
They're in the way.
Yeah. Do we have anyone online who wanted to make any comment on the Phase 3 projects?
Go ahead, Anna.
Oh, sorry, it's actually Laura Barnett Twomla. I'm just on Anna's computer. I just wanted to throw in that the PE programs use the fields regularly unless it is raining. So if they are going to be worked on or blocked off, just to make sure that the community school PE program and the high school PE program both are made aware would be really helpful.
Sure thing.
Thank you. Sorry, I just heard that real quick and was like, oh, wait. And then in terms of the parking lot and the story poles and the solar panels, I'm coming late to that conversation, but I just wanted the story poles are to get an idea. It's not that has been a decision made. Is that correct?
It mostly has been a decision that's been made. We are putting it out for proposals for contractors to do the solar. But yes, if you go back to last month's meeting, I think.
Well, we approved to move as far as getting pricing.
Yeah.
And and then we would discuss once pricing comes in to give the final decision to move forward or not.
I wonder, Jason, if we can put the presentation that was given at last month's meeting, which they just emailed to us, maybe we can put that on the front page of the district website?
Sure.
That would be useful.
Yeah.
And then you can see what we're envisioning, Laura, and where.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And currently, we're only looking at renovating the soccer field, not the lacrosse field, so we wouldn't have both of them closed at once.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Anything else on Phase 3? I think, yeah, it's just a quick update this month.
I think it's great what Ruben's been able to accomplish in the community school. It looks really good. Keeping that in-house, I think, has been a really beneficial process.
Yeah. All right, item 9.3, the budget update with Meg.
Hello.
Hello.
You see my screen?
Not quite yet, but give us a sec.
Oh, share. I have to hit share.
There it is.
There it is. Okay, so this is going to be the annual update or the unaudited actuals update for 23-24. So this slide shows, This slide shows shows the unaudited actuals revenue, and it's the variance between where we thought we were going to be in June to where we actually ended up. So our LCFF sources, which is predominantly our property taxes, were up 173,000 better than what we were projecting in June. And then we'll go over property taxes on the next slide. Federal revenue was down slightly, and that was due to the deferral of Title I revenue that we didn't use in this current year. It'll be deferred to 24-25. And then we had some offsets in SPED, Title II, and REAP. State revenue also had deferrals of revenue received in 23-24 to 24-25, most notably the CTEIG grant. We had some expenditures we didn't place in 23-24, so those will happen in 24-25. And then for dual enrollment, I've always been projecting this $350,000. The state holds back $10,000, so the revenue is lower by that 35,000. Sorry, they hold back 10%, and the revenue is lower by that 35,000. And then I'm not going to project that 35,000 until we get closer to the end, because I think it won't come through till we actually spend all our dollars. And then we also benefited from higher lottery numbers, dollars, the classified summer assistance program, and then STIR's behalf and some other. Local revenue was up significantly, 35%, $211,000. So this is where we get our special ed dollars. And our special ed reimbursements sometimes are not really known, and the estimates were given by the county are not really accurate. Because they pretty much have to wait until the end of the school year to determine how many types of students they're serving and, where the need is throughout the entire county before they really know what they can distribute to each district. So our revenue was higher by almost 100,000, 96.7 thousand. We also had a bunch of one-time end-of-year distributions that were unexpected. We had the legal JPA had some reserves that they distributed at the end of the year. The dual enrollment from the college, it's different than this dual enrollment is different from this dual enrollment. They're different funding sources. This is from the college. I didn't have that budgeted correctly. And then, there we are. Okay. And then, let's see, we had an insurance reimbursement. The insurance reimbursement went back to a bus accident injury to the bus. A tree limb hit the top of the bus. The vendor, we had it fixed in the prior year, but the vendor had never really kind of given us an invoice, so we couldn't pay him. And it didn't happen until June that we paid him, and the insurance company reimbursed us, and that whole thing happened. Interest was higher than I had been projecting. And then we ended up with the Cal Hope grant, which we're going to use in 24-25. MCOE wanted to get it out the door in 23-24, so that came in at the last minute. So overall our revenue's up by about 3%, 354,000 better than what we were projecting. Any questions? Yes?
The $38,000 in additional preschool funding from the state included in that, or is that elsewhere?
It's elsewhere. So it's not included in, this is just general fund revenues, Fund 01 revenue. So where we're going to see that is when I talk about expenditures and transfers out. Any other questions on revenue? Okay, so this is the property tax. So because property tax, is our largest source of funding. So this green section down here is where we were at estimated actuals. So at estimated actuals, we were projecting the certified P2 taxes. So we had total taxes projected at 6.3 million. They actually came in at 6.5 million. And our secured taxes, which are our largest pot of taxes, were higher by $139,000. And the timber tax was higher by about $30,000. So the secured property tax, the increase, year-over-year increase was 6%. As we go forward, and I'm projecting the property taxes, I'm still holding it at this 2.5% increase, annual increase. And if you go back and you look at our annual increases in the past, through here, and given what we know that the county is allowed to increase assessed values by, 2.5% seems reasonable, so that we don't get ourselves into trouble, projecting something higher in future years and then it not materializing. And we don't have, any kind of backfill from the state. We would end up having to use our reserves. So I know it creates a problem at the end of the year when revenues come in higher. But if our revenues came in that much lower, we'd be in a world of hurt. So I am going to continue to project at 2.5%. Timber taxes, I'm going to continue to project at 120,000 until or if the county has some other higher projection later in the year, as we get closer to June to the P2 certified. And so this is where the multi-year in taxes is going to be. So you can see that what I was projecting for 24-25, it estimated actuals was 6.4 million. When I do a multi-year projection next month, the property taxes will be at 6.5 million. So you can see we're better off, right? The projections are going to be better off as we move forward. 6.5 million I was projecting for 25-26. In October, I'll be projecting 6.7, and then 6.7 in 26-27, and 6.8 is what I'll be projecting. So any questions on property taxes? Okay. So this slide shows the expenditures. Again, the variance between where I thought we were going to be in June, estimated actuals, and where we actually ended up. And so here, certificated salaries or not certificates, all the salaries and benefits were fractionally lower by $80,000. Most of it was in mid-year resignations that weren't replaced or replaced with lower cost, and the benefits track that. But I also had some OPEB benefits in here that didn't happen. So that's why that was off. Books and supplies in here is where we see the difference in the CTEIG purchases that are going to be moved forward to 24-25. So that's going to change the 24-25 budget. And then I also deferred the AB 218 insurance payment to 24-25 from 23-24, and that's a pretty sizable payment. And then we were offset by some other smaller things. The transfers out. So the transfers out here, this is where we see what happens with preschool. So these are all the transfers out from Fund 01 to other funds. So the other funds we usually transfer dollars to backfill because they don't earn enough to run their own program, is preschool and cafeteria. Those are the two big ones that we transfer out to. So preschool this year, I don't know if you guys remember last year, there were some districts in the county who didn't spend all their preschool money. So we benefited and we got an additional $40,000, I think it was, in preschool funding from the county. So we had a lower transfer out last year being 22-23 than we had been projecting. This year, the same thing happened, this year being 23-24. There were some districts that didn't spend all their preschool money. And apparently we're one of the only districts that have to backfill our preschool because we got all of it this year. And all of it this year was about $30,000. So it caused our transfers to go down. And the cafeteria was also better this year. We had more funding in reimbursements. And then we had a grant that helped offset cost, and we had I think we had lower costs too. So that transfer out was lower by about $13,000. But on the other hand, the transportation fund, and this is that Fund 15. So this is the transportation equipment fund, and this is where we're kind of running the dollars through to pay for all the electric buses that we're receiving and the grants that we're receiving. And we're also putting the infrastructure costs in there, hoping that we're going to get grants to pay for the infrastructure costs, but it's all timing. So sometimes we have to pay for stuff before we have the money. So this year we had to transfer $68,000 from the general fund to the transportation fund, Fund 15. And let's see, $25,000 of the $68,000 we are probably not going to be reimbursed for through grants. But the remainder of it, SEAL's working on getting some grants for the infrastructure, and it looks pretty promising. So I'm thinking, but in this year, I'm hoping 24-25 we'll be able to pay the general fund back. So in all, our expenditures, I was projecting 10.8 million. They came in at 10.6, 10.7 million. So they're better by 127,000. So that's that for expenditures. Any questions? Okay, so this is just kind of a summary of everything. So we had revenues that were better by 354,000, expenditures that were better by 127,000. So our net increase to the fund balance is 481,000, 482,000. I thought we were going to end the year with an ending fund balance of 2.18 million. We end the year with 2.67 million. And then it all falls out. You know, this is revolving and prepaids. We still have a pretty good restricted balance. And again, restricted balance is mostly one-time money that needs to be spent. We easily meet our 4% REU, and then we have some other designations. So we have an unappropriated balance of $1,000,001. Our restricted reserves are in these categories. So, you know, we have ELOP. It's 73,000. We're going to have a take back of 23,000 because we weren't able to run the full program as we're supposed to. And so if you don't run the full program as you're supposed to, they take some of the money back. Educator effectiveness, we still have a big balance there, 134,000. All of that needs to be spent down by the end of 26. We have a decent balance in instructional materials. But I do believe there's some probably instructional material purchases that have to happen. The other big one is this KIT grant. And so this is a kitchen grant. It expires at the end of this year, 24-25. Over the summer, we purchased a new vehicle for the kitchen. We purchased a little Toyota Corolla Cross hybrid specifically for kitchen use, so they can go back and forth from the K-8 and the high school. And we have 65,000 set aside for a generator at the K-8 cafeteria. And here's the dual enrollment grant, and so this will be spent down as we spend it. The learning emergency block grant we have through 27-28 to spend down, and that is really being projected to be used for salary and benefits. And then here's the Cal Hope. We'll get another half, the other half of Cal Hope. We get 30,000 total, and that will all be spent in 24-25. Any questions on this slide? This is just something we have to report on. This is the EPA, the Education Protection Act, and these are dollars that are generated through tax on income tax on high wage earners. And so this came into effect when LCFF came into effect. And so this year we received $84,130. All of that money goes to certificated teacher salaries. And since 2015-16, we've received $858,000 in EPA dollars. All those dollars go to certificated teacher salaries. And this funding source expires in 2030. When the tax on high wage earners is supposed to expire. So these are other funds. So here's the preschool fund. So you can see here our original allocation from MCOE was going to be in this $36,000 range. We ended up with $66,000. So we had $30,000 more than we were supposed to get. And we had a little bit, tuition was a little bit higher. So we had revenue of $82,060. Our expenditures were slightly lower. And so we had, less of a deficit. So our contribution to the preschool program was significantly less. We have a balance of $1,600 in the preschool grant, and that was a TIDES grant that's supposed to be like a landscaping grant, yard grant. So those dollars are still there and available. This is how the preschool looked compared to last year. So last year we had $83,000 in revenue versus $82,000 this year. We had lower expenditures last year being 22-23 of 88. 754, 23-24, our expenditures were up. We had an aid, the salaries are up, in benefits. So we had an aid for the full year. In prior year, 22-23, our aid wasn't there for as many days, the whole school year. So that caused salary and benefits to go up. And then in prior year, we had some general general fund dollars specific to preschool. So we were able to transfer out some of the cost out of preschool into the general fund to spend down those dollars. Any questions on preschool? So this is a cafeteria fund, and let's see. So here's where you can see, actually, let's start over here with meals served. So in 23-24, we served more meals. We had 47,282 total meals served compared to 42,900. So we were serving 266 meals per day on average. So that's 12% higher than the previous year. So because we were serving more meals, our reimbursement rate went up. So we had, higher federal and state dollars. And then we also had a state grant in the state money. And our expenditures went up slightly. They went up about 2%. And you can see our food costs kind of, this is the year over, I'm sorry. But since estimated actuals, we were up 7,000. Our general fund, let's see, we had a deficit of 36,000 compared to, I was projecting 60,000. So our contribution was much better. Let's see. And then over here is a year comparison. So here in 23-24, we had much higher revenue, 311,000 compared to 235. And our expenditures also went up by about 4%. And in here, our food costs kind of stayed the same, which is, kind of interesting. Other supplies went up and services went up. So we had a deficit of 36,000 this year compared to a deficit of close to 100,000 last year's. And we had a general fund contribution of 73,000, which was 25% less than last year. Any questions on this? Well, we spent less money on food.
Right, but we also got a lot more money. I mean, overall, we got more money.
Yeah, and we did get a lot more money. And realistically, I mean, when you look at, our costs really didn't go up by a whole lot. They only went up 4% compared to our revenue going up. But we had, in here, we have there's a one-time funding stream in the state revenue. And so that's, we have the part of it we haven't spent. So it's this piece down here, this school food best practices. It's a 2-year grant. We received all the money. So this next year is going to go down by, I think the grant was like close to 50,000. So this number is inflated because of the grant. And we still have this to spend, and, it's to be spent on Whole Foods. So, yeah.
Okay.
And then this is just what's coming up next. I'll update the budget and do a multi-year projection once MCOE looks at the numbers and make sure that there are no mistakes. The auditors are kind of here. They've been here, kind of getting stuff from us. Certified P1 taxes will be certified November 15th. And then we have first interim and a multi-year projection on around December 15th. And then the audit has to be finalized into the board by, or has to be finalized to the state by December 15th. And we have to bring it to the board by January 2025. So I think that's it. So I need you guys to approve.
Thank you, Meg. Any questions for Meg before we seek approval?
I'll move to approve the unaudited actuals for last year.
Second?
All right. Any other questions or public comment before we vote? Okay.
Student trustee Pinsland?
Yes.
Trustee James?
Yes.
Trustee Morton?
Yes.
Trustee Schaefer?
Yes.
Trustee Alm?
Yes.
Trustee Griffin?
Yes. Thank you, Meg. All right, 9.4 is the board calendar. I think this is mostly just a change, that we need to change the location for next month's meeting,
Yeah, well,
correct?
there's a request to change the location for next month's meeting from Compchi back to Mendocino, because that's homecoming week, and then we could do the Compchi meeting in November. If that's okay with the board. It'd be a lot easier for our tech people.
Do you want a motion?
I
I
think,
think we need one to amend the calendar. Yeah.
I'll move that we make that adjustment to the calendar.
A second.
All right, any comment before we vote? Go for it, Aaron.
Student trustee Quinlan.
Yes.
Trustee James.
Yes.
Trustee Morton.
Yes.
Trustee Schaefer.
Yes.
Trustee Ohm.
Yes.
Trustee Griffin.
Yes. All right, item 9.5 is consideration of resolution 2024-19, sufficiency of instructional materials. Each year, the district is required to pass a resolution determining that each pupil in the district has sufficient textbooks or instructional materials in each course subject, which are consistent with the contents of the curriculum framework and standards adopted by the State Board of Education. So the resolution establishes the district's eligibility to receive instructional material funding from the state.
Not the edibility.
I don't think so. Yeah, I made a change on the fly there. So we had the public comment for this earlier in the day. Do we have a motion to approve resolution 2024-19?
Also move with the
you.
spelling correction.
Second?
All right, any questions or comment from anyone before we vote? Okay.
Student trustee Quinlan.
Yes.
Trustee James.
Yes.
Trustee Morton.
Yes.
Trustee Schaefer.
Yes.
Trustee Ohm.
Yes.
Trustee Griffin.
Yes. Item 9.6, consideration of resolution 2024-20, adoption of the 24-25 budget GAN limit, which I will admit I read what the purpose of it is and don't fully comprehend it, but I did read the resolution. I can't describe it to you.
this is where I delegate.
And this is where we say,
To
Meg,
either Meg
could you
or-
explain
or-
this
or
to us?
Michael.
I was waiting for Michael to explain it.
No, I'll pass. I think that at this point, the only thing you need to know is that
No change.
we don't have to change anything.
I saw in bold capital letters, no change, and I moved on. I'll admit.
Yes, that's essentially it. It's an old law implemented in 78, 79 that really no longer applies. So the whole idea behind it was to try and control spending at the state and local levels. And then to move, you calculate your limit, your GAN limit, and then if you're above or below the limit in your calculated limit, you're supposed to move your limit back and forth between the state. But we meet our limit, we're not above, we're not below, we're right on, and so there's really nothing for us to do except to tell everybody about it in this resolution.
Perfect.
I'll move to approve 2024, 25 GAN limit.
Second?
Thank you. Any questions or comments? All right, let's vote.
Student trustee Quinlan.
Yes.
Trustee James.
Yes.
Trustee Morton.
Yes.
Trustee Schaefer.
Yes.
Trustee Ohm.
Yes.
Trustee Griffin.
Yes. All right, 9.7 is board policies, bylaws, and administrative regulations. We have 3 of them. The use of school facilities, admissions, and transitional kindergarten. I had an exchange with Jason proposing a couple of changes to the use of school facilities, which is the one that we've kind of gone a couple rounds on, so.
Could I share my screen? So I'm handing out, so that it's changed a bit from the policy packet, but I'll show it on my screen. And with the end, as well as the exhibit, and hopefully I've captured the changes. It's been very difficult process. This is a very confusing policy. But what you're looking at and what is up on the screen is the changes from the changes, essentially. So we would like to not charge, so the option, so I contacted legal counsel. We are able to combine these options. So option 1 states that we believe that the use of school facilities or grounds by non-school related organizations should not result in an expense to the district. So then down below, we authorize this use of school facilities or grounds without charge to school-related organizations whose activities are directly related to or for the benefit of the schools. Other groups will be charged an amount not to exceed direct costs as determined with this code, but also with Exhibit 1330, which is the table of the fees. And I was talking to our council, and you know, what is proposed, I can't prove it. I'm not having done the calculations, but the proposed fees are probably, no, I mean, they're likely well below the direct costs. If you calculated out staff time, admin time, utilities, maintenance, for that. So I think that we would be safe on that, and that's what she was saying as well.
Wait a minute, if we're saying that we don't want to do it at an expense to the district, and yet we are setting up a fee schedule that we know is not covering our expenses, how does that?
Well, it's going to be, because I don't think, we can't do direct costs every time. Because every event is different. So schools typically have this kind of setup where we're not, so I see what you're saying. Whereas the first option says that we're not going to have an expense, but I think that it does a pretty good job of covering it. So we could change the language to say something different, to say, even to get rid of that sentence if we want, because if that's going to cause a discrepancy in the language, then we should probably change that. Because I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I think I'm not sure what that sentence does except add to confusion.
Okay.
Which sentence?
The option one.
Option one sentence?
Because that's essentially saying that we're not going to have we are not going to result in it. It's not going to result in an expense to the district.
Yeah, I don't think we need that sentence either.
Right. Yeah. Down below. I agree with that.
We're just going with option 3 at this point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And then we're out. That makes sense. Thank you.
And option 3 is struck. So
Option 1 is struck.
Yeah.
Oh, just the
word.
The
So
word
somewhere
is
else,
struck.
it'll just be.
It'll just be the only
an
option.
It'll
It'll be the
okay.
only option.
There won't be numbered.
Yeah, we don't.
The
have
options are for us in deciding what
Right.
policy we
Right.
want.
Okay, I
Yeah,
understand.
so now we've chosen the policy. Yeah.
So then,
Okay.
I'm not going to move on too quickly here, but then we have the fee schedule. So there are 3 categories, and category A is essentially those that are school-related or for the benefit of district schools. So I'm trying to, I think a good exercise for us, if we really want to dive deep into this, is to just say, how much would we charge the PTO for using the school? Well, in this case, nothing. How much would we charge Club Cardinal? In this case, nothing, because they are directly in benefit of the schools. How much would we charge, sorry, I'll keep going. So category B is the not-for-profit fee. And these are not nonprofits. They're just not for, the event does not garner a profit, or the organization doesn't get a profit. The other one does. So Kim and Tobin and I went round and around about various organizations that use our schools, and we're trying to be fair and treat everyone equally. So, the film festival, the writers conference, and the music festival should all be treated similarly. And there's a lot of debate because they do make a profit, but they're covering their expenses, and it's for the good of the community. And I guess the good of the community isn't listed here as a factor, but we should get something out of that because it is a lot of staff time.
So
happy to try
that's what
to
your
answer
that's what you have as category B?
B, I would treat them as B, yeah.
I mean, I think the only way to really analyze this is after the fact. If we approve this, then hopefully the site administrators are keeping track of how close those costs are to what we're charging.
Sure.
And we can come back in a year and say,
Yeah.
we need to double this or whatever.
Yeah.
I know in let's see, I'm not sure if it's included on here, but sometimes for example, for the PAC, required someone to hire a staff person to run the
tech.
The equipment, and I don't see that in here.
It's not on the bottom, but it's on the top. If you look at category B under one of the bullets, it says there will be a $25 an hour charge if events require district staff
Okay.
tech support time.
Okay.
So that is covered up there.
So, seeing as that's under B, but not
That's true.
C and D, you should probably, under C, you should add that to C.
Yep, yep, you're right. That should be under C.
Right.
As well.
Yeah.
Yep. Good catch.
Could we just say for both category B and C, and then list it once, so there's no confusion?
Sure. I mean, all these bullets are probably the same. For both of them, all 5 of the bullets are probably this, well,
Yeah.
there's 5 without those, so one of them's missing. But yeah, I can clean that up.
So you'll clean that up
Yeah.
when you bring it back as on the consent agenda next time. Okay.
Thank you for taking the time to go through that.
Yeah, of course. So can we vote on all 3 of them to move them to the
Yeah.
forward as a first reading? Right?
I'll move that we approve them all for first reading.
Second.
Any questions or comments before we vote? Okay.
Student trustee Quinlan.
Yes.
Trustee James.
Yes.
Trustee Morton.
Yes.
Trustee Schaefer.
Yes.
Trustee Elm.
Yes.
Trustee Griffin.
Yes. All right, that's it for our agenda tonight. We've got a list of things for future agenda items. The next meeting, as we just agreed, would be right here on October 17th. And with that, I believe we are adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.